This is entitled, What the Splitting of the Sea Can Teach Us About the Iran War. It happens to come from Midrash Rabbah, Parshat Beshalach. So the Midrash starts out with a very unusual notion that is entertaining, something that I don't think anybody else would even think of. The Midrash is wondering about the great confrontation at the splitting of the Red Sea between God and Pharaoh and his armies. Whether that was a display of might is right, was that sort of a fair fight or not? I mean, nobody would ask such a question, but the Midrash always looks at things in a far more creative way than any of us would. And the Midrash comes up with an answer and says, you know what it is? It's like a fight between two athletes. One is big and strong and is mighty, and the other is weak and puny. And so what happens when the strong one beats the weak one? Everyone heaps praise on the winner. And so what is Midrash saying by this? Perhaps it's saying that the way, in the perspective of the general population, the way the world looks at that confrontation, they didn't know who was going to win. We know that there's no equal to God. It's not a fair fight. But the world wasn't sure, so who's going to win? So when God won, then everybody says, wow, I have to have new respect for this God of Israel. I have to fear him. And the same is true of the Jewish people. I have to fear them. I have to have respect for them. And nobody sees it as a ridiculously unfair fight. But there is an exception, perhaps, that proves the rule. If you look at the way Yitro looked at the fight, he didn't see it all. He knew, of course, that God was all-powerful. What he saw was a certain beauty in the fact that the way it was conducted was in a way that was instructive in giving moral lessons to the world, because here the Egyptians drowned the firstborn of the Jews, and now they're being drowned. And this measure for measure, midah k'neged midah, very much impressed him. In fact, the Midrash says that this God's whole way of conducting himself, even in the 10 plagues, was what brought Yisro to convert to Judaism. And the same is true of the Jewish people. They also looked at this and were transformed. They didn't see it as a stronger versus weaker, but the Midrash actually traces their faith journey, and it says in Egypt they had some faith, but then they lost it. And then when they saw the defeat of the Egyptian soldiers, they actually saw in the dead bodies the ones that were tormenting them, their taskmasters. And that gave them such tremendous closure and psychological comfort that they got tremendous faith in God, to the point where they got even to the level of having divine inspiration, Ruach HaKodesh. And that's what enabled them to sing the Song of the Sea, the Az Yashir. And that, the Midrash says, was such a powerful event in history that had never happened before, that it secured God's kingdom in the world. So an amazing outcome, all because they looked at it the right way, and they didn't see it as strong versus weak. They saw it as God taking the trouble to give them this closure and taking away all the fear, showing them the Egyptians had been defeated, and it brought them to tremendous faith in God. So why do I bring this up, and what does this have to do with the war with Iran? I think that we sometimes overcomplicate things, and we look at this war, we start to analyze it, and who's got this left and who's got that left. I think we have to come down to a very simple level, the way the Jews looked at it and the way Yitro looked at it. Iran is a country trying to destroy Israel, and they're being destroyed. Iran is a country that's giving money to proxies to kill Israelis, like Hezbollah and Hamas. They are now having all their funds depleted, so they can't do that anymore. It's very simple. It's measure for measure. God is taking the trouble to fight against our enemies, measure for measure. We have to just appreciate that. We have to get tremendous faith from that. It's a funny thing that the Christian evangelicals seem to have it right, because they focus on that famous verse in the Torah talking about, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And it's true. They're looking at it in a very simple but basic, fundamental way. that people started up with us, and God has taken care of our enemies. And hope that we should merit, if we see things the right way, we see them, recognize the miracles of God, that we see God's divine intervention. It should strengthen our faith. We should reach high levels of consciousness, and we should also break out in song like our forefathers at the Red Sea.